with the Pura Vida life with you.
What's up guys, Jay Walia here, and today yet another installment of Pura Vida video reviews. Today we are taking a look at a cigar, but first and foremost I am at this beautiful location right here, getting comfortable in my Chesterfield sofa set. This is Savini's in Kuala Lumpur, so special thanks to them for letting us film here and do a review here. And what are we reviewing in this rather decadent looking place? Of course, a decadent cigar. This is the Davidoff Winston Churchill, the late hour in Churchill. Of course, you know, it is a gorgeous looking cigar. It's newly released, just released last year, and it's got some very exciting things going on in the blend itself, which I will get into at the inspection. Davidoff Winston Churchill, the late hour. You can see how oily the wrapper is, and the blend in this is a fantastic blend actually, from 4 different countries, filler and binder from Nicaragua as well as Mexico. We've got Dominican tobacco in there as well. Now, what is the selling factor of this cigar? The Nicaraguan filler has been aged for 6 months in Speyside single malt Scotch barrels. Yep, that sounds... I can't wait to get into this actually. It sounds rather tasty. And nicely done double cap, you know, could be better I must say. The foot is not as tightly packed as I would like it. It's a rather light looking cigar, but the Ecuadorian Habano Marron Oscuro wrapper is a gorgeous looking thing on this, you know, so much oil behind it. Now the dimensions of the cigar are 7 inches in length by 48 ring gauge. Just a little insight on what the cigar is about. Now of course, Sir Winston Churchill was one of the biggest, most widely recognized cigar smokers in the world, and he was always seen with the cigar. So, you know, Davidoff actually came up with a special line for him. There have been previous lines that have been released before. Now, why it's called the late hour, it's because Sir Winston Churchill did most of his thinking, most of his writing, basically all of the genius work at the late hour. You know, when most people were asleep, he was down burning the midnight oil and coming up with all of the great ideas and things like that, and he always had a cigar with him to accompany him. Surprisingly, I must say, I didn't expect to actually get that much of flavor on the palate, but you can actually taste the whiskey. You know, there is a very nice sort of coffee finish at the end of it, but you know, you're getting this sort of caramel, this malty sort of notes that I am sure are coming from the whiskey infused, you know. I don't know if it's right to call it an infused cigar, you know, it's not entirely immersed in the whiskey itself, but you actually get quite a lot of the flavor. Now, if you're a regular Davidoff smoker and you're expecting the mild blend, the usual Davidoff signature blend, you know, this is a whole world away. Plumes and plumes of smoke, but the smoke is not creamy. I'll show you guys. It's a very wispy, light smoke, which is not necessarily a bad thing, you know. The flavors are great. A lot of the malty, you know, malty flavors that are lingering on the palate and leaves a slick on the palate. It ends with a very slight sort of espresso note, you know. The sweetness is very malt-like. There's a little tanginess to the flavor, and this is just the first third. So surprisingly, a very complex cigar. I'm going to continue smoking this and I'll be back with the second third tasting notes. Stay tuned. Alright, so still smoking the Davidoff Winston Churchill, the late hour. I'm well into the second third. I'm actually about to get into the final, so I thought I'd just come back with an update. The smoke is still, you know, there's ample smoke, but it's still very thin and wispy. Now the flavor profile, it's amping up in strength. Yes, it's got a bit more of a kick right now. So, you know, mid to full, so it's not really mild at all. The flavor profile, I'm getting a bit more roasted nuts. I'm not getting as much of the whiskey flavor profile as much anymore. There's still a bit of sweetness, but it's generic tobacco sweetness. So I must say the flavors did die down a little in the second third. you know, it's burning along all right, you know, it hit a vein just now, so it burns a bit uneven. But there's not much change to the flavor profile itself, you know, you're still getting some good flavors out of it. You're getting sort of the coffee finish that's coming a little more to the fore right now, you know. It's taken over the whiskey, but nonetheless still rather pleasant flavor profile, but you know, I must say I was expecting a lot more, so hopefully it ramps up, you know, in flavor in the final third, and I'll be back with the tasting notes for that. In the final third, the flavors actually did amp up, and that was great. You know, it's gone back to its first third flavor profile where you're getting a lot more of the whiskey sort of malty sweetness on the palate. You know, it's taken on a very nutty flavor profile as well, and it's gone back to the espresso finish to it. So you know, it finished on a good note. Now, the sort of smoking time for the cigar, you know, for a Churchill size cigar, actually the smoking time was really quick, and that's got a lot to do with how loose the pack of the cigar was, and also, you know, with regards to how thin the wrapper was as well, which is kind of weird actually, because usually with a Maduro and Oscuro wrapper, you know, you tend to have thicker wrappers, but this was a very thin wrapper. Now, the pros of this cigar, I actually really enjoyed the flavors. You know, the maltiness on the palate was very enjoyable, and I've never actually had a flavor profile like that in a cigar before, so that's going great for it. But with regards to the construction, the draw, you know, it could have been better. The ash didn't hold for very long as well, you know, the ash broke in lots of small chunks. The color of the ash, you know, it's all down to how loose the pack was as well. I enjoyed the flavor profiles of the cigar, but I think it could have been better. And for the price point, because you've got to look at the value of a cigar, you know, as to the ratio of enjoyment you get from the cigar, as well as how much that you're paying for the cigar as well. And Davidoffs tend to, they're super premium cigars, so they tend to go on the higher side as well. So, you know, make what you want of it, but just be aware of these few things. The flavors are really, really cool. I must say, it's a very interesting experiment that Davidoff has taken on, and by and large, it has worked. The flavors were great, but it's not too complex, you know, it's not as complex as it's made out to be. It's an enjoyable cigar, but it's not mind-blowing. Nonetheless, I had a good time smoking it, so if you think this cigar is for you, go out and get some. I'm sure it will age well as well, you know, with whiskey, of course, you know, it ages well. This cigar will age pretty good as well. So that's all for today, guys. I'll see you guys at the next Pura Vida video reviews. Till then, happy smoking and bye-bye.